As a marketing leader, you know the story. You spend millions of dollars driving traffic to your company's website, but the results just aren't what you hoped. On top of that, 81% of marketing leaders say website ownership is a challenge. There's a better, faster way with Webflow. Webflow's visual first platform gives your marketing team the freedom and flexibility to truly own your website. From launching a new web experience to optimizing for performance, Webflow gives you the tools to drive business growth fast. Unlock your website's full potential today at webflow.com.
Hi, I'm Erica Wheelis, food and restaurant marketing reporter at Ad Age, and welcome to another edition of the Marketer's Brief podcast, your weekly discussion about marketing news and trends that have the industry buzzing. Today, I'll be talking to Gail Hollander, Chief Marketing Officer of J.M. Smucker. Hollander spent 20 years at Publicis working on the Smucker accounts before becoming the company's CMO last year. In this episode, Gail will cover how Smucker is updating brands like Jif and Milk-Bone, why the company is leaning into personalization through data, Smucker's hybrid work model, and reaching younger consumers. Now, here's my conversation with Gail. Gail, some people might not know, but you had a long tenure at Publicis where you also worked on Smuckers before coming to the brand side. What was that like to move from the agency to the business itself?
Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you, it's been a year, Erica. And you know what? It's been a year of incredible learning. We just have tons of strong ideas. And at Smucker, we get to practice the art of the fundamentals and a dollop of magic. So it's something that is near and dear to my heart. You know what? Overall, I think that I'm super proud of the transformation that JMS has undergone when it comes to Marcoms. And you're right. I had the opportunity to work on Smucker when I was at Publicis and then transfer over into the CMO role. And what we've done really has continued. We're focused on driving business results, not only today, but also for the long term. And we think about long-term brand health quite a bit. And we've done it. One of the things that I got to do was lean into the fundamentals of what makes marketing work. So, the basis for a lot of what we do is evidence-based marketing, but we can bring in the power of breakthrough creative that's going to punch above its weight. It's going to be super relevant. And then use data as the backbone for everything that we do. So I feel like that's something that was important to me no matter where I sat. I just really believe in discipline and strategic thinking and then the power of creativity. And so I got to do that not only at Publicis and to build it up as something that like the model that we have at Smucker when I was on the Publicis side. And then I got to transfer over. And, I think that focusing on creativity and taking what you might consider to be dusty brands and make them more modern and relevant is something that's a marketer's dream, truthfully. And then we focus very, very heavily on our media investments and collapsing the funnel and making sure that we're really balancing national and retail media. And then obviously data. Data is so important from a business strategy, from a creative strategy, from a how are we doing, what's the performance, and then optimization. So I think I get to do more of that and more of what I love being on the client side, but it's something that I've done my whole career.
I'm glad you brought up. I'm going to ask about media investment later, so I'm glad that's on your mind. Okay, your word, not mine. Dusty brands. That's a good lead in because I did want to ask. It feels like post-pandemic, I think we have seen a lot of these older historic brands and companies coming out with refreshes. There's a return to basics, it seems. Can you talk a little bit about the brands that Smucker is refocusing on now and why?
So Smucker had when we started the journey, there were 11 brands and they were all iconic in their own right. So, Smucker has Folgers, Dunkin' in store, Cafe Bustelo, we have Uncrustables, we have Jif peanut butter, we have jams and jellies, and then we do have a pet portfolio. Think Milk-Bone, Meow Mix, Pepperoni, and our new acquisition of sweet baked snacks. So that's Hostess and Bortman. So we have and had all of these iconic brands, but truthfully, at Smucker, marketing years ago was really seen as a cost center, and growth came through acquisition. So, it was like being a kid in a candy store. You get the opportunity to rethink these brands, figure out where their heart is, what the DNA of the brand is, figure out how that connects into culture today. And then we generate these big brand platform ideas that can span the test of time, help us with news and innovation, and drive our equity, and obviously drive the business today and for the long term. And that's, in your career, you get to do that once, twice, maybe. If you're lucky, 3 times. We had 11 we had to do. So it has been an absolute labor of love. And to see these brands be healthy, be modern, be relevant, it's really exciting.
Is there a brand refresh in particular or a creative campaign that stands out from the last year? Any one of them that I know that's like picking a favorite kid, but anything that you're really proud of?
Yeah, it is absolutely like picking your favorite child. You never do that being a mother, as I am. But yeah, I'll name a couple. I think the Jif brand, that was really the first. And if you think about Jif, where it was with Choosy Moms Choose Jif, the core strategy of superior taste is still valid, but the message had become a little old-fashioned, and we weren't bringing new users into the household. So for us, it really was about how do you take this superior taste and modernize it and create more relevant propositions. And the latest one that we did this year was what we call Save the Celery. And saving the celery really allowed Jif to compete in the Super Bowl without paying Super Bowl prices. And so, peanut butter, you could either compete within the confines of the peanut butter category, or you could recognize what consumer behavior, how it's shifting. And consumers love spreads, any kind of spreads, right? They like jams, they like peanut butter, they like hummus, they like avocado. And so this gives us an opportunity to start helping consumers understand that, yes, we are a spread. And yes, it's a wonderful protein hit that you can use anytime you want. It's not just for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So the agency and the JMS team actually went and tried to figure out what the biggest dip day was. And what we found was it was the Super Bowl. And we're like, oh my God, that's so cool. And what we also found is that chicken wings were the most consumed item during the Super Bowl, but they come with celery, and nobody eats the celery. So there's celery neglect out there. So we did a whole activation around saving the celery, and it really punched above its weight. It was great fun, and we sold a lot of Jif. I think another one that I would talk about would be Milk-Bone. Milk-Bone obviously is a biscuit for dogs, and Milk-Bone is really about showcasing the unique affection and love between a dog and their pet parent. And when you think about culture, you can think about all the superficiality and the tropes that exist in culture today. So this gives us a beautiful counterbalance to showcase, if you have more dog, it means you have more authenticity, you have more genuine love in the world, which is something that we all sorely need. So that's sort of in consumer land, it's in pet land. And then if I go to coffee, the one I think that I would tell you I'm most proud of right now is Cafe Bustelo, because it celebrates its Latin heritage with a passion for coffee and a passion for life. And we are very, very dedicated to that and very authentic to what that means.
I want to focus on two of the Smucker brands, Uncrustables and Jif, just for a moment. I'm sure that you are well aware Uncrustables has come up on Travis and Jason Kelsey's podcast. The rapper Drake ate one mid-set at a concert last year. And then with Jif, sticking with rappers, you guys worked with Ludacris on a fun campaign where he tried to rap with a mouthful of peanut butter. It's fun to see this from some older brands here, but I wonder, was it challenging to get these sell in on this, having these brands do these more cultural moments when they have been pitched as, mom and kid friendly for so long?
Do you mean, was it difficult internally, or do you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's start with Jif. We need to go all the way back. So we're probably going back 6 years now. And the That Jif and Good campaign was born 6 years ago. And when you're shifting from Choosy Moms Choose Jif to That Jif and Good, of course there's going to be a little pause about, oh my, are we really, is the change in tone going to be appropriate, effective? How do we feel about that? But I have to say that Mark Smucker in particular was very bullish about, we need breakthrough creative. We need creative that's going to punch above its weight, because we cannot count on growth through acquisitions anymore. We really have to look at marketing as an engine of growth. And as soon as the organization rallied around that, it became a lot easier to say, here is the core strategy. Do we all buy into the core strategy of superior taste? The answer was yes. And then you look at That Jif and Good campaign, and it's undeniable in its ability to deliver that. So I will tell you that the courage and the boldness that Smucker has demonstrated, and the hunger around really great creative that's going to break through, is wonderful. But with that comes a lot of responsibility. It can't just be great creative for, creative sake. It has to be true to a target. It has to be true to the strategy. And there has to be a reason why you're connecting into that cultural norm. So for example, if you think about Ludacris, guess what? We found an insight that said that some rappers sound like they're rapping with peanut butter in their mouth. That's where that was all born from. That was something that consumers were saying. And once we understood that, it gave us the opportunity to go and look at the world of rap and look at how peanut butter plays within the confines of the world of rap. And what was fascinating when we landed on Ludacris was, he's a peanut butter lover. He's been eating Jif his whole entire life. So it was sort of, there was a little kismet going on in there. The other thing on Uncrustables, you know what, we sort of think of Uncrustables in a couple of different ways. One is we have to drive awareness, and we have our National Bread Brothers campaign, and we want people to believe that this is really better than just making a peanut butter jelly sandwich at home. And when you have people like the Kelsey brothers, when you have people, different golfers, you have people who are doing it out in the wild, it goes beyond influencing and creates credibility for a brand that didn't exist without it. So the answer to your question was no, it wasn't difficult to convince them to create a partnership with the Kelsey brothers. In fact, the story goes, it was very funny. Somebody from the finance department actually saw Travis and Jason talking about Uncrustables and what it was and how much they loved it. And that news got routed around the halls really, really quickly. And we had jumped on talking to them within 3 days.
Oh wow, yes. Okay, so you guys did see it and said, yeah, we
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
we gotta move on this. Very nice. I want to stick with the snacking category you mentioned earlier. Yes, Smucker acquired the Hostess brands, Twinkies, all of that, to stay ahead in the snack category. Are we going to be seeing new creative from these brands this year?
This year, there's creative that's been running from last year. They could just continue to run it this year. Our hope is that we're going to take a look at some different insights, take a look at what's happening in the category in the marketplace. And yes, the expectation is we will be doing a creative exploratory to see where we can take that brand.
Very nice. Okay, let's take a short break here to hear this message from our sponsor.
Let's be real for a sec. We all know that your website shouldn't be a static asset. It should be dynamic and drive conversions. That's marketing 101. But 54% of marketing leaders say web updates take too long. That's over half of you listening right now. That's where Webflow comes in. Their visual-first platform allows you to build, launch, and optimize web experiences fast. That means you can set ambitious goals and your site can rise to the challenge. Learn why teams like Dropbox and Orange Theory trust Webflow with their business growth today at webflow.com.
Welcome back to the Marketer's Brief podcast. I'm speaking with J.M. Smucker CMO, Gail Hollander. Okay, Gail, I feel like we can't get you can't have a CMO on and not ask about Gen Z. And I always find this really fascinating because you guys have such a broad portfolio. You are speaking to a lot of consumers, the shoppers, the college kids. How does Smucker think about Gen Z or maybe like millennials who are now parents? How does that impact your strategy?
Yeah, a lot of our brands, we've had to expand the age brackets in terms of how we target our brands. And so for a long time, a lot of our brands were very, very connected to boomers. And we love that, but we have had to include millennials and Gen Z. And, when you look at millennials and Gen Z, you look at how they grew up, and they grew up with the internet. They grew up with mobile phones. They grew up with the ability to get anything they want on demand. So there's a tremendous impact in terms of the way we think about our investments or media investments and where we're putting our money. It used to be that you could create mass reach by being very, very focused with your investments. That is not true anymore. What you have to do is proliferate your media mix in order to achieve that same reach, because there are so many different areas of opportunity that consumers see, particularly millennials and Gen Z, but they see it in different places. So they might see it on TikTok, or you might see it on Instagram or Reddit or something like that. So mass is now being created through personalization and through individualization. So it's just it's just a different strategy for your media investments.
Let's stick with that, Gail, because I know you mentioned this at the top, but just overall, what is Smucker's media mix looking like lately? Are you seeing good return in certain channels, TV, streaming? Are you pulling back elsewhere, like out of home or something like that?
You know what? We are very heavy digital. We're weighted very, very heavy digital. Our linear spend has decreased dramatically over the years. However, really, linear versus digital, those are just channels, and that's just where you place something. Video continues to be critically important. Shorter form, we go from long form to short form in video. So, we could have 90s, 30s, 15s, 6s, and that's something that we do with ease. I also think there's a big, big difference in just what you're putting where and thinking about the funnel. So the funnel has collapsed. And, so we think about awareness, we think about consideration, and we think about conversion very, very specifically. And we think about the role of not only each dollar, but we think about the role of each piece of content or each asset.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Part of that too is coming with just how consumer behavior has changed. This is one of my personal favorites. When you look back in the last year, maybe two, what are the biggest consumer changes that you all are contending with, and how have you managed them?
Well, it's a great question. A really great question. There are many. I think the biggest shift in consumers right now, as we speak is the pressure that consumers are feeling just from inflation and how expensive things are, particularly in grocery stores. So that's something that we have to think about very, very carefully and make sure that our brands are representing value for these consumers. I mentioned before the ability just to purchase on demand and have anything show up at your door within 30 minutes or less. I think that's a significant shift in behavior, which has impacted marketers greatly, not only from a make sure if you're showing up that you have the opportunity to be delivered, but that they know how to get to you and you're making it easy as humanly possible for them. And I think the last thing I would say, and I don't know if this is a behavior, this is really not a behavior, it's more of an attitude, but life's hard. We've been through the pandemic, we've been through a number of things, and consumer sentiment is gloomy. So I think it's the job of these iconic brands to provide a little entertainment, to provide a little levity, to just be something that can put a smile on somebody's face instead of contribute to the heaviness that they're feeling.
Very true. Yes, more sunny and 75-degree days, please, would be would be great.
Excellent.
I agree. I have another question for you, Gail, not necessarily pertain to the creative work, but I actually wanted to ask about the Smucker work model. So Smucker has a slightly different hybrid model where employees can live and work in other states, but you all have to come into the headquarters in Ohio for what are called core weeks. I wanted to ask how has that been and has it impacted the marketing team at all?
Oh, God, I love that you're asking about this. Yes, Smucker created a very unique model. It is called Core Weeks. We have 20 core weeks a year. And essentially, during a core week, people come in Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we are very intentional with the way we spend our time when we're on campus to make sure that it's about collaboration, it's about partnership, and people aren't just sitting in their offices, just toiling away, which is something that you can do at home. From everything that we've been told and all the conversations I've had, people love it. They really love it. It is the true definition of hybrid. They have the opportunity of spending time, at home and being able to balance work and their home life, but they also get the beauty of being connected with their peers and with their workmates on a regular basis and on a regular cadence. So I think we're more productive. I know the workforce is more happy as a result. And it's something that we look at every year just to make sure that it's working not only for the workforce, but working for the company as well. And the answer has continually been yes to both.
Best of both worlds. Nice to
Yeah.
hear. All right, Gail, my last question for you. I like to end with this one, more forward looking. I wanted to ask about trends. Is there anything in food or marketing or something else that you are keeping an eye on?
Yeah, you know what? There's so many things. We believe very strongly in looking around the corner and make sure that we're not so focused internally only that we miss something coming our way. But listen, everybody's talking about AI, so that's an easy one. I think that I think the role of marcoms in any organization faces headwinds, and some years are easier than others. But whenever you have a company that is committed to bravery and recognizing the importance not only of short term but also long-term brand health, then you've got the recipe for success. So that's something that we look at. I think that, again, the pressures facing consumers are very, very real. And the question is, what are our brands doing to help them be able to manage through that? And I think the last one I'd leave you with is from a marketing standpoint, because of the fragmentation of media, because of all of the algorithms, there is no more mass. And so it really is about creating experiences that are either individual or personal. But when you aggregate all of them, you get enough scale in order for your dollars to be used wisely. And that is something that is new, call it for the last, I don't know, 5 years. It really has continued to grow over time. And it's something that we as marketers face and have to continue to figure out how to navigate.
That was Gail Hollander, Chief Marketing Officer for the J.M. Smucker Company. And I'm Erica Wheelis, Food and Restaurant Marketing Reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Ciardio, and invite you to subscribe to the Marketer's Brief wherever you get your podcasts. We promise to keep it brief, or at least short enough for your morning coffee. Thanks for listening.
Marketer's Brief listeners get $40 off an adage.com subscription. Sharpen your marketing edge and visit adage.com/brief for your discount.